Hey, hi, how are you doing? Welcome back to the Waistline Podcast. My name is Lee, and I'm your host, and I hope you had a great week. I really do. I hope you have a great week this week. I had a good week last week, and it's actually off to a good start this week, and I'll tell you why. Very obviously, if you're watching, we are in a new location. My brand new office. This is actually the first day that I've been in it, and it's not even a full day. It's been my first full half day. And I'm really excited. When I was a kid, I really, for some reason, was excited about the idea of having my own office. And I always thought that someday I'd get a job and someone in a suit would say, hey, thank you, Mr. Syed, and this is your office that we are providing for you. And instead, I went on Craigslist and found an office that I'm paying for myself. But it's still exciting. I actually am really happy with it. It's still obviously a work in progress. I need to get some artwork that doesn't have a glass front so that the light doesn't shine in it. But I am excited for it because of what it's going to allow me to do. I'm going to start doing a lot more for you. I'm going to do live streams on YouTube. This is actually one thing I'm very excited about. I'm going to start doing tests a little bit. I'm going to test out because so far, if you listen to the first couple episodes, I am honestly just counting calories. And I like that. I like it. It's worked for me. And I honestly think that that's what the system that I'm going to follow for the majority of the rest of this and probably my life. But what I want to do to test things out is I'm going to start going on week-long tests of other diets, like keto. That's one. There is the carnivore diet. I'm going to try Weight Watchers. I might try Noom. I might go onto the meal plan services and just see how they go. Because I want to put myself through it so you don't have to. I honestly do. My hypothesis is that I'm going to enjoy the current plan that I'm on now the most. And I don't know if it will be, because here's what I've heard. I've heard that when you do something like keto, you do lose a lot of weight quickly because you're losing the water weight. So maybe I might have to do keto for a couple weeks, which trust me, you're gonna see. I'm gonna be a cranky little boy when I don't have bread or carbs. But you never know. A lot of people liked it. There's a lot of people who I spoke to on the listener call-ins who have been doing keto for a couple of years and really enjoy it. So I'm going to at least give it a week, see what I like, see what the results are, and we'll find out, okay? But what I'm saying is I'm excited about this office because it will allow me to do a lot more than I was doing in my parents' spare bedrooms. So please continue watching and listening, and tell a friend because I really, the numbers aren't, I'll just be honest with you guys, the numbers aren't huge for this podcast yet. And I've had people tell me, oh, you should just stop it. I don't want to stop it. I really do enjoy and believe in what we're doing here. And I think that it's just, I need to do a better job in marketing, and none of this is on you. I'm just letting you know where, I'm not like it's your fault. But I honestly do feel like that this podcast can help people in a weird way. And I hope that doesn't come off as egotistical. It honestly has almost nothing to do with me. I actually, it was so cool. Ruby, who we had on last week, if you didn't listen to it, you should go listen to it. She lost over 100 pounds during quarantine, and yesterday she did a half marathon, which is wild. I don't know if all that sounds just awful. Even if I am healthy, but she did it, and I think the people that I bring on here are I hopefully will. I don't like the word inspire. It sounds kind of, excuse my French, douchey. I don't know. I I don't see myself as an inspiration at all, and I don't. It's I never. The reason why I struggle with the word inspiration so much is I never needed to be inspired. I wanted to lose the weight. I knew I needed to lose the weight. I just didn't. I guess I wasn't really ready to lose the weight, just mentally. And there's plenty of that every day. There's someone who loses 100 pounds. And for me, that didn't really, inspired isn't the right word. I'm impressed by them. I'm happy for them. But if you're on this path, or if you're waiting to get on this path, I honestly do believe that it's your choice. It's whenever you're ready to do it. And as much as I can beg and plead and show you people who have lost 8 million pounds, if you're not ready, it's not going to happen. But what I do think that I like about this podcast, or I know I like about this podcast, what I think that this podcast can do is show you that it is possible. Because I know for me, a lot of the time that I just gave up on diets, I mean, I was trying to think of a better word, but that's just the word, is I gave up, is, you run into plateaus, you make a mistake, the food doesn't taste as good, you're hungry one night and you stop at McDonald's and get 4,000 calories worth of food, just spitballing here, part of me didn't really think like, I'll ever be able to lose the weight. Because I'm going to be honest, it's not the most fun I've ever had. I enjoy burgers and french fries and that felt good, that tasted good in my mouth. But I didn't enjoy the rest of the day. Which is a sad thing to say. I was thinking about that yesterday. That it's kind of messed up how much of a happiness and joy I get out of eating. And that there should be other things in life that give me that. It can't just be food. Because if it's just food, then I'm going to gain the weight back. And I don't want to do that. So if you're struggling with it, or if you know someone who's struggling with it, I don't know. Some people, it might work. Some people might like the, hey, fatty, get up and that just made me like I'm a little turtle, and I just put my head in my shell and ate snacks. I don't like that. But the reason why I'm doing this, and if no one ends up listening, then you know what? This is just an audio journal then, and you guys get to listen. But the reason why I like this, and the reason why I put the people on that I put on, is to show you that not only is it possible, but it's honestly kind of easy. Like I said, the dinners that I eat aren't the most delicious meals of my life, but at least with the way I'm eating now, it's fine. I don't hate dinner. I'm not hungry after. I get to have most of what I want. And like this, look, for example, I'll even pull up the exact of what I ate. And I'm sorry that I'm looking at my phone. On Saturday, I watched the UFC. So I'm just opening up my Fitness Pal. On Saturday, I watched the UFC, and I'll tell you exactly what I ate. As I was saying, part of my love of food coincides with TV, especially sports. I used to love watching football and having pizza and wings. That was half of the fun, was the pizza, the wings, the chips, the snacks. And so there were some big UFC fights on Saturday, and I knew that I wanted to have a snack during it. I normally, I don't really have much dessert. At most, I'll have like a no sugar added popsicle, which is still good, but it's gone in 3 minutes. So I purposely tailored my dinner so that I could have some calories left over for a snack. And so this is what I had on Saturday, April 24th. And again, like these, it might not be the healthiest. Like I'm not eating health food. But I am counting my calories. So Purdue makes these breaded chicken breasts. Again, probably too much sodium. And last night I had real chicken breast. So I mean, I'm not having it every day, but I do. The big thing for me with my food is I like it to be easy, because if it's not easy, I'm just not going to do it. So I sacrifice in some places just to lose the weight, to be honest. And I do cook. Like last night I had a real baked chicken breast. So I don't eat this stuff all the time, but it helps, and they taste good and it works, and it's better for me than going and getting a fried chicken sandwich, or 4 of them. So what I had is I had 3 of the Purdue breaded chicken breasts, and those were 200 calories each. I had my go-to Greek salad, which has no fat feta. It has right now I'm using Texas toast croutons. I have Kraft Greek dressing, and I put lettuce, cucumbers, and carrots in it. And the feta, and I don't have a food scale right now, just to be honest with you. So I try to overestimate. I put in 2 ounces. I don't think I had 2 ounces of it. And that's 70 calories of the no fat feta. I'm pretty sure each serving of the croutons is 35 calories. I put in that I had 3 servings of it. And that's 105 calories. I also put in that I put in 2 ounces of the salad dressing for 180 calories. I don't think I put in 2 ounces, but I try to overestimate just in case. And then, so that was my main meal. I also had green beans and mushrooms that I sauteed with some garlic, and I don't count those calories. So sue me. I don't. I don't count vegetable calories because they don't count. And maybe I'm sure if I ate, like I know if I ate too much corn or some of that stuff, that there could be a lot of sugar in it. I didn't. Some garlic and with some green beans and mushrooms, I don't count those calories. And so because I had that, I had roughly 1,100 calories, I'm assuming, something like that. Maybe closer to 1,000. And then what I had for a snack during the UFC is I had about 1 1/3 or 1 2/3 servings of Wise. They make this this popcorn that I had just got, and it's called sea salt popcorn, and it has it's like a 3.5 cup serving, and I'll just tell you how many servings. 3.5 cups, I think, is like 140 calories. If I just did that right, that math. And I just messed up my count, so I'm not going to be able. It's roughly that. And then I had 4 apple cinnamon rice cakes. Those were my snacks during the UFC. Is it pizza and wings? No. But it got the job done. And honestly, sweet rice cakes, apple cinnamon, caramel's the best. And I do have caramel, but I like cinnamon a lot, so I wanted to try the apple cinnamon. I really liked them. 50 calories each. How are you going to beat 50 calories? So that's like that is a perfect example of what I eat. Last night I had green beans with garlic. I didn't feel like cooking mushrooms. I had the same salad, and I had roasted potatoes and bone in, skinless. I took the skin off. Chicken breast that I put shake and bake on top of, and it was delicious. And that was somewhere around 1,400 calories. So those are perfect examples of what I eat on a daily basis. And why I think that's important to talk about today is because of our guest. But before I get to our guest, I did want to bring this up. I promised someone a shout out last week and I forgot. But Justin H. You have it on Twitter as Justin H. I don't want to shout out your last name if you don't like it. Everyone give a big shout out to Justin H. He was the one who got the Obese to Beast interview to happen. So thank you very much, Justin. I really do appreciate it. And if you and a few other people have hit me up, if you either know of someone who might be a cool guest for me to talk to, either hit me up on Instagram, Waistline Podcast, or email me, waistlinepodcast@gmail.com. Or if you yourself would like to be a call-in guest, which we'll have another one next week, just email me, waistlinepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to have you do it. I have a bunch already in, and if I don't respond for a couple days or even a week or two, don't get discouraged. I keep everyone in there, and then when I'm about to do another round of listener calls, I'll reach out. I promise you I'll reach out. But this week, I have a very cool guest who reached out on Instagram, and his name is Rob Hildebrand. And Rob is a young guy, but he is extremely qualified. He is a registered dietitian, and we'll go into it a little bit in the episode, but I learned very early on that a dietitian is not a doctor, so he's not a doctor, but he did get an advanced degree. I believe it's a master's degree. So what I learned, and I think we might go through this, so I apologize if it's double, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a background. The order, the pecking order, is doctor, dietitian, and then nutritionist. And the differences are like the levels of education and expertise. So Rob actually leads. He has two jobs. This is how cool he is. He is the head dietitian at a doctor's office in New Jersey, and I think he might mention it in here. I honestly, I don't have that written down in front of me, but what I do have written down is if you're interested in working with Rob, whether or not you live in New Jersey, he has a website called Effective RD. So it's Effective, EFFECTIVE, and the name of his company is actually Effective Nutrition, but the website and his social media is Effective RD. And Rob was amazing. It's great to talk to somebody as a fat person. It's great to talk to someone who isn't, as I was talking about with Shane, a lot of times when you're big, the doctor or anyone in this field, it's an intense visit. You feel like you're being yelled at. You feel judged, even if they don't say it. There's a lot of negative connotations with going to see a professional, and I didn't feel that at all with Rob. I felt like he really understood where I was coming from. I felt like he understands what happens to people and genuinely cares. So if you don't live in New Jersey, or even if you do, and you want to check out his website, go to effectiverd.com and check it out. He does a lot of personal online consulting, I guess. They'll meet with you and he'll do nutrition plans, and he honestly is a great person, and I'm excited for you to listen. Right before we start, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Please go to manscaped.com, and when you go to manscaped.com and you use my name, Syatt, SYATT, you're going to get 20% off and free shipping and off of everything at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping with code Syatt, SYATT, Yeah, I spelled that right. SYATT. And while you're there, when you're at the website, manscaped.com, check out the Perfect Package 3.0. They give you a discount. They give you a ton of products. They give you the Lawnmower 3.0. They give you the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver. One is a deodorant, and one is it just is a toner. It makes your as I like to say, your twig and berries smell better. And if you're losing weight, you definitely want to smell and look your best, and you're going to be able to do that with Manscaped. So go to manscaped.com and use code SYATT, SYATT, and get 20% off with free shipping. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you very much to Rob. Thank you very much to Rob for coming on, and enjoy this episode of the Waistline Podcast. Thank you very much for reaching out. I was surprised because I didn't expect, especially at the very beginning, to have like a real deal professional reach out, and you're the real deal. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I saw somebody like you that I know about who's losing weight with a strategy that I love. I mean, I'll save some of it for the podcast, but I was like, I got to jump on this. This is
Oh,
great.
and we're in the pod. I love that we are in the podcast now. So but
Oh, okay, cool.
thank you. I know I have to figure out a way to like wait until that happens. I'm gonna have to like do like a compilation because
Transition.
no one knows. But I want to welcome. They just heard a welcome, but I would love to hear, because I actually made the mistake in our email conversations. I was trying to be respectful, so I said Dr. Hildebrandt, and I pronounced that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I said Dr. Hildebrandt, and you were like, I just want to, and you were very professional, because if it were me, if anyone called me doctor, I would say, yep, absolutely, I'm Dr. Syat. But you were very professional. Said, well, just so you know, I'm actually a registered dietitian, and that's a little bit different than a doctor. So I would love to know what the difference is, and maybe why you decided to be a dietitian.
Sure, sure. So I think the main difference is actually quite large. You know, a doctor definitely goes through much more years of schooling. A dietitian requires right now a master's degree, and then you have to do a clinical internship in a hospital where you do rounds for about 1 year, and this is called a supervised practice.
That's I went to art school, so I mean, a master's degree is pretty good.
Yeah, and then you have to take a board exam for your state.
Okay.
So, I did those things. It got through, and it got my registered dietitian license. To be a doctor, you really have to go many more years. So don't people say it's like 10-year process to become a doctor?
Yeah, I actually, I might have to release it on this feed. I have another podcast where I just interviewed, not about weight loss, but I interviewed a doctor who, and I asked him some of the questions I'll ask you. But he was saying he was about my age, early 30s, and had literally just finished school.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's a lot. So, I guess before I get to why you wanted to be a dietitian, well, you just mentioned something that I thought was interesting. So you have to take a licensing test for the state. Is because I would imagine that there's a lot of different approaches to being a dietitian. There's no one technique that's going to work for everyone. So what are they testing you on?
Yeah. So that's a great question, because the variety of career choices for dietitians is humongous. Just to list off the ones that come to my mind right away, it's basically a lot of people do clinical dietitians. That's where you're in the hospital. You run around all the patient rooms, all the new patients, you give them education. Some people are on tube feeding. You have to adjust their tube feeding
Oh,
calculations.
wow.
And that's pretty brief. You only get to spend, 10, 15, 20 minutes with a patient, sometimes longer. There's the outpatient dietitian, which is more counseling. We actually get to sit with people for like an hour and a half, and actually educate them, use resources, and see them again. And
Okay.
that's what I do.
Okay.
But you could do so much more. You could be in sports nutrition and work for companies like Gatorade. I mean, there's people who work for Nestle and Kellogg's. You could actually work in food service, with restaurants and hospital kitchens. You could work for WIC and help women, infants, and children. The
Okay.
list goes on. So
So what is the test on? Like, is it I
all
would
of
love to
it.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
So what what is the difference then? I guess this might be a better question. Is what is the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
That is a huge question and something that the dietitians get a little frustrated about
I bet. You probably did
because
more school than them, maybe.
yeah, so and no fault to them, right? Because there's a lot of great nutritionists out there.
Right.
So I think that the best way to explain it is dietitian requires like the master's degree, the clinical internship, and a board exam. And the reason why you do that is so you can actually work in the clinical field. So you can be in the hospital, so you could be in the doctor's office, so you can be in a health facility and have that higher up position.
Okay.
And maybe it's a little bit more reputable and that sort of thing. If you're a nutritionist, that might only be a couple of months online for a certificate.
Oh,
And
really? I didn't know that.
actually, some states you can call yourself a nutritionist without having anything. I don't
So
know
I
which
could be a
states those are.
nutritionist. Are there any nutritionists that look like me? That'd be kind of bad. You might not you might want to do it without the picture if you look like me. That's and I do appreciate that you're drinking water. I specifically I do drink diet soda still, so I was like maybe I shouldn't have a diet coke when I'm talking to a dietitian.
No, not at all. I
Um,
think that it can fit. It can fit.
okay, perfect. So why did you decide to become a dietitian?
Yes, I think that's a two-part answer. Part of it was when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I was put on Adderall when I was in fifth grade for ADHD,
Okay,
and I was on that my whole life, and that really messed up my appetite.
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, I think
Too hungry or not hungry enough?
not hungry enough.
Okay.
So I used to skip breakfast, and I remember eating French fries for lunch, and then skipping dinner, and then being starving for junk food at very late at night.
Sounds
And
like I should. Sounds like I was on Adderall without being on Adderall.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I did that middle school, high school, and after high school. And then I finally got off the Adderall, and so that helped recover my appetite. But it was just really, really bad food, and I want to help people with that. Teaching them about proper nutrition because nobody ever pulled me aside and even taught me about proper nutrition. Really,
And were you heavy or no?
definitely the issue was definitely out of shape and very low energy, and that actually leads me into the second part of becoming a dietitian was energy and fatigue. So in high school and after high school, I actually knew there was something wrong with me. I felt like very low energy to the point where I was going to doctors, I was going to neurologists, allergy doctors, everybody, getting tests done, MRIs, everything, trying to figure out what's going on with me. Why is my energy so different than all my friends? Why
Okay.
are my friends soccer players and lifting weights and loving the gym, and I feel so weak and different? And I actually was on this journey for until recently. Honestly, in the last couple of years, I figured it out. But that made me want to be a dietitian because what I was doing to figure out the energy issue, aside from going to the doctor's offices, I was experimenting with supplements. I was taking energy pills, I was taking diet pills, I was taking fat burners to help get in better shape. I was taking testosterone boosters. I mean, you name it, I was experimenting with it for years and years. And so being a dietitian, part of that was like, there has to be some truth to this. There has to be something that works. This is like $1 billion industry, the the supplement industry. So I wanted to figure that out. And luckily, I
Interesting.
finally got my answer.
I don't, and I would be love to know what your answer is, but I had someone else reach out. He's a doctor named Doctor Vu, VUU, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And apparently, he's done a TED talk, and he just sent me his book, and it's about the idea of healing your body and healing your issues with itself. So I haven't read the book yet, so I don't know if it's talking about the food that you eat or what. So it sounds the reason why I brought that up is it sounded like you were saying maybe did you stop taking some of the supplements and through your diet you were able to become more energetic or am I reaching?
No, you're right on. That's exactly it. So, the big secret to me was this question that I was asking for my whole life, which was, what can I add? I'm feeling out of shape. I'm feeling overweight. I'm feeling low energy. What can I take? What can I add? What pill can I take? What supplement can I drink? What powder can I buy? What multivitamin packet can I get? And I was asking the wrong question. I was asking, what can I buy? What can I add? The question was, what can I take away?
Right,
Right. And then I
good
finally
point. Yeah.
discovered the world of fasting, which, we'll talk more about for sure.
Oh,
But,
okay, perfect.
and that really kind of saved my life, really turned everything around.
That's wonderful. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think because that's such a big topic. Then it would it be jumping ahead to just talk about that now since you brought it up? I mean, so I would love to tell you. I'll tell you what I'm doing. And I'm not sure if you're aware of who my brother is or not. His name is Jordan Syatt. He used to train Gary Vee, and now he's an Instagram influencer, and he has a training website. But he's been helping me. I was up to 336 pounds, and I'm 5'4", so I was basically a human bowling ball for a few months there. But I had people tell me like when you're big, people tell you everyone has a diet you should try.
Hmm.
I've been told to try keto, and I've tried most of them. I did keto when it was called Atkins. I did juice fasts. I did all the different meal delivery plans, but one that kept coming back was intermittent fasting, and one that's because I know there's a couple different types of it, and one like is a window, and one that I have found success with is OMAD, once in one meal a day, and I specifically like that one because my schedule, my schedule is a little bit unpredictable, so it would be hard for me to have a window because sometimes I'm out, especially when I was doing comedy, I'd be out very late, so I wouldn't be able to eat until much later, and then other days I'd be eating earlier. So the one meal a day thing is working for me at the moment, but the one thing that my brother did mention, and he's a very well-read person and is very smart and good at what he does. He has a bachelor's degree, and I believe kinesiology or something related to this field.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly the degree he has. But I asked him because I have a Patreon where I'm documenting this thing that I'm on, this journey, and I asked him about the benefits of fasting, and he said that there are some like cell regeneration, maybe some of that, something like that. But what he said is like the main reason I'm losing weight is the caloric deficit, and that the fasting itself is nice, but it really works because of the caloric deficit, and the fasting doesn't play as huge of a role. So
Hmm.
you just said that fasting saved your life. So I would love to get your 2 cents on it, and what if you disagree, or even if you do agree, what your thoughts are on fasting.
Yeah, so I do agree. And the caloric deficit's definitely important. So when intermittent fasting became pretty popular a couple of years ago, there was a lot of backlash. Everybody's like, this is all nonsense. It's just another fad diet. What really matters is a caloric deficit. And then now they finally started to get some research out. And there's a lot of great minds in the fasting world. So they were all talking about it. And what the research ended up showing was it was kind of good. And it's kind of something I knew. I wasn't upset about it. It showed that fasting wasn't enough. It showed us that fasting with a good diet is what works. So we have to do both. And it's a
Okay.
very powerful thing. And people seem to be very successful with it. I mean, I never, working with a patient, I would never put them on an intermittent fasting diet with a poor diet. I wouldn't see success. Their
Right.
weight might
You
go
can't eat
up.
nothing but Doritos. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually implemented it, right? Because some patients' diets are very, very poor, and you implement intermittent fasting and let them have the poor food. You might see an improvement, but then you'll see a stall, right? But they might not see a gain. So there's some improvement happening.
Right. That's true.
And the improvements could be a lot of things. They could just see improvements to sleep and energy and blood work, whether it's like diabetes or heart disease, cholesterol, those kind of things, but the weight might not move. So for the weight to move, we really have to edit the diet and do the fasting. But the
Okay.
fasting it's separate than the caloric intake, right? So the fasting is the tool to get you there. And that's what I love about it personally. I mean, for me, why it works so good is because there is no option. The answer is no. Like it's just a waiting game. Like I wake
Hmm.
up, I'll have my coffee, I'll have my water, and I'll wait until 11 or 12 or something like that, and then I'll eat. The old me would have been, what can I have? Was this a healthy granola bar? Is this a healthy snack? What's in the vending machine? Is this healthy? What's healthy down the street? Right now, the answer is just no, and that has really been the game changer. The answer is
Interesting.
no till later.
So it's a mental issue, and I totally I couldn't agree more because I'm a little I have social issues. I get nervous around people, and I don't. Sometimes I make inappropriate jokes. Sometimes if I feel like I'm too comfortable with somebody, and I even just told this to a girl I've been talking to on one of the apps recently. Is I do well when I know the rules.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
for whatever reason, I'm not. I don't want to be in like a very strict life. I live a pretty open lifestyle. I mean, my work is whenever, and my life is open. Um, but certain rules, at least for me, I'm good at following direction. I know. So, like for example, my brother was just here visiting because he's moving. Him and my mom had a bagel with lox and cream cheese, and one of my brother's big things is like you can have whatever you want. Just you gotta uh, be careful with your calories later, and because he doesn't like the term like cheat meal and all that. I chose not to have the bagel with lox and cream cheese. Because for me, I choose to have my meal at night because nights when I would always break my diet, number
Yep.
one. And so I like to be full as possible at night. And then B, because even like let's say I did have a bagel and lox and cream cheese, but then I just had a salad at night, that I would have still been hungry. And then B, I also, and I know this, I would love to know your thoughts on this if I'm being a little, if this is unhealthy, but I weigh in on Tuesdays. I try not to weigh myself until Tuesdays. If I'm being honest, around Saturday or Sunday, I will check in and see where I am, but it's
Okay.
not every day. And Sunday and Monday, I do try to have lower calorie meals because I have a weigh-in coming up.
Hmm.
And like for example, a month ago, I had rice twice in a week and I had trouble passing it, so my weigh-in wasn't as good, and
Right.
I was stressed out about it. So now, 2 or 3 weeks, like a couple weeks later, I had bagels with lox and cream cheese. We're Jewish, so we have it quite a bit. But I had it closer to my weigh-in day, and even though I was good on my calories, it's a heavier meal.
Yeah.
So I know that that might be a messed up way of thinking, but um, I just have to agree with you, I guess, and I'm saying is like the rules and the structure that the fasting gives me has been helpful, and even just on top of that, because I do a lot of long distance driving, I've done it a lot, and I actually enjoy it a lot. But I noticed before I was fasting, if I stopped, even like let's not say for fast food, but let's be honest, a lot of it was fast food. I would have some scary moments driving where I would start digesting the food and get kind of sleepy and sort of doze off. And on my most few recent road trips, I just didn't eat, and I
Wow.
didn't have that happen at all. So like I don't feel like it's like I have more energy. It's like I'm just not going through that normal midday like tiredness.
Yeah. To answer your question about the weigh-ins, I go back and forth with that a lot. And I actually think that you're in the right. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason for that is, I mean, there's some people who disagree, but it comes down to, is it an accurate weight? And the answer is actually no, right? Because if you eat a bagel, that's 60 grams of carbohydrates, which makes you hold on to quite a lot of water. Carbohydrates usually make you hold on to water, especially if you haven't had a lot of carbs in a little while. So
Right.
there's carbohydrate
Oh,
intake.
I always have a lot of carbs, so.
Yeah, there's water now. Your body's holding on to more water.
Right.
There might be a bowel movement you haven't had yet. If there's salt in the diet, that can make you hold on to water. So in the weigh-in is actually not accurate. So most people could just weigh themselves and the weight could not be down as much. And you'd be like, okay, well, it's because of those things. I'll move along. But if it affects you negatively, then I see no problem with it. Ease off those things for before the weigh-in. I don't think it's a problem.
See, I like talking to you. I like talking to you. Okay. So, all right, let me ask you this. What is there someone, and obviously, and I've said this, I'll say this forever on this podcast. I am not a doctor, so definitely don't take any of my advice. And if you are taking Mr. Hildebrandt's advice, definitely talk to your doctor. But is there someone, if a client or a patient was coming in to see you, are there certain types of people or certain issues that don't work well with fasting?
Absolutely. Well, definitely the first one that comes to mind is obvious. It was pregnancy. Yeah.
Okay, I would not have known that. Okay,
Yeah.
what is it
Yeah.
about pregnancy? They need more calories for the baby.
Yeah, they need to eat more. They shouldn't really go long periods of time without food for sure.
Okay,
Um, I have, some, I was working with a girl, she wanted to attempt it. She had a history of an eating disorder. So usually with eating disorders, you want to advise against it because, long periods of food can be kind of mentally uncomfortable and lead to a binge. She wanted to try it. We tried out a light form of intermittent fasting, which is basically just like a later breakfast. It didn't work. I mean, and she found that when she was just doing a slightly later breakfast, she was very hungry for it and had a very large meal. And, the weight wasn't moving up or down. She wanted to lose a little weight. But I think those two cases are first ones that come to mind. Yeah.
okay, and it's interesting because you mentioned this before, and it's you just mentioned it again. I had that as well, where sometimes if I like a big problem for me before I was counting calories was I was either busy or lazy and didn't want to cook, and I would sometimes wait to the point of not obviously I wasn't starving, but I would wait to the point of extreme hunger,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would be like, oh well, I don't want to wait for this, so I'm gonna go get fast food. As a dietitian and someone who is helping people through these issues, are you also dealing with their mental issues? Are you recommending them get therapy, or like what? How do you deal with those issues?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I want to talk about something else about the fasting and who it's not for too. So
Okay,
an important thing there, so people don't miss this, is fasting can be so many different types, right? Intermittent fasting is such an umbrella term.
okay,
Fasting can be like, hey, I don't eat after 8 p.m.
hmm,
So, if you're not doing that, like anybody could do that, right? Like, oh, I don't have breakfast at 6 a.m. I have breakfast at 10 a.m. Like I wait a couple hours to have breakfast. That's your intermittent fasting. You do more of an intense form like you do one meal a day, right? And if you really want to do something lighter, which is what I do, is like a 2 meal day. Like I eat at 12 and I eat at 6. And that seems
okay,
to work best for me. And it helps with energy and sleep and all that. And people can even lose weight with that strategy. So when you're doing lighter forms of the fasting, it really opens up who can do it. So I just
okay,
wanted to, that just came to mind as well.
okay.
But sorry, your other question, please
Just
repeat
like
that.
how do you deal with the mental
Oh yeah.
aspects of like do you deal with that as well, or do you just recommend people talk to a mental health specialist?
Yeah. So actually wanted to talk about a little what I do. So I work at a doctor's office I'm the dietitian coordinator there. So I oversee other dietitians. And this doctor's office is very special. It's like a one-stop shop. So it's like going to your doctor's office, but the doctor's office also has a dietitian. They have a therapist, they have a pharmacist, they have a
Oh,
cardiologist, they have a foot doctor, they have a chiropractor, and many other things. And our philosophy at this company is we don't turn anybody away, whether you can't pay or whether you have insurance or not, whether you're struggling with insurance. Like we never turn anybody away. We give everybody equal health care. So
that's very
people
nice.
get the full treatment. I mean, people come to see their doctor for the first time in 5 years. They have, they're obese, they have diabetes, heart disease. I'll go in and say hi. The therapist will go in say hi because they have depression. They'll go around the corner to the pharmacy and they're just fully taken care of. And that's kind of the approach. So I do have some connections with therapists if I do notice that mental health is a concern. But a lot of what I do is more nutrition therapy, which is more goal setting and following up on nutrition, not so much the mental health aspect.
Okay, so um, like let's say I was coming in 4 months ago when I was 336 pounds. Something that I struggled with before was when I would try to lose weight before, or people would give me advice, is they would give me advice for someone without an eating issue. Like, just have chicken breast and broccoli and hike 6 miles a day. And it's, even though it is possible, it just mentally or whatever for me wasn't. So, like, when you're designing a plan for someone, would you be like, okay, maybe let's just not go to fast food every day? Like, is it like a gradual plan, or how do you customize your plans?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I'm so happy to explain this. And I really think that I do a good job of making plans for people. That's really, and it makes me love my job because people actually will tell me that. So like, this plan is so easy to do, so comfortable, and it's not like all the other things I've tried. And it
Right.
just makes me so happy when I hear that. So really, when I do a full assessment, I'll spend 1 hour with the person. We'll go through everything about them, their weight history, what diets they've tried, their energy, their sleep, their exercise. We'll go through example foods like, what are some breakfasts that you commonly eat? What are lunches you commonly eat? Dinners, snacks. And again, we could spend an hour talking about all this stuff. And after I get all that, I'll think about the plan, and I'll really try to ease them into a couple of main factors. One is addressing the sugar content in the diet, right? One thing I like to tackle first is the sweet drinks. I always jump on that first. That seems to be one of the main culprits for people's barrier to lose weight. So if somebody's drinking, people don't even notice for most of the time. They're like, I have juice once in a while, I have soda once in a while, I have Gatorade once in a while, I have Snapple once in a while. I said, if you do all those things once in a while, that means you're having it every day.
Yeah, that's a
so,
lot of once in a whiles.
so this is where you get into what's called SMART goal setting, which SMART is an acronym for sustainable, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time oriented. And the goal has to meet all the criteria. So we'll set a specific goal that says, let's limit the sweet drinks that you drink to only like 4 to 8 ounces per day, every day. And I prefer that you had it with dinner. And they're like, okay, currently they're having it with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they're just going to have it once a day at dinner.
Okay, just to interrupt very quickly, why do you recommend the sugary drinks at dinner?
Well, that goes into more of like some deeper science of the fasting. And I will try to ease them into a little bit of a morning fast. I've seen that to be pretty successful. So if we can ease off of sugar and carbohydrate heavy mornings, I do see more success. So I do
Okay,
like to allow a little bit more freedom at dinner, just as you're doing, which is why I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. And you always talk about how it feels good to be able to eat normally and have a big meal and have something good, and you still lose weight. And that's what I try to
right.
do with my patients, actually.
Oh, that's interesting. It's good to hear. But it's sugar is a huge topic for many reasons. I don't know, because I know you're a fan of comedians. I don't know if Dean Del Rey is a name that's familiar to you. He's a comedian who actually lost a lot of weight by just cutting out sugar, which was amazing to see how quickly and how much weight he lost. Um, but and I know this might not be of your expertise, but something that I've noticed and is frustrating as a person trying to lose weight is all of the like kind of lying that's get done to us. Like, oh, they say it's like for example, I said this on an earlier podcast, like the Nature Valley bars or trail mix. It's supposed to be
Man.
healthy. Like, as me, as someone who used to eat candy every day, you look at something and you're like, it's nature or it's trail. These are nuts and raisins. These are healthy. And another big thing is dried fruit. The dried fruit industry is evil because I thought, to be very honest with you, when I found dried cranberries, I thought I had cured obesity, and because they tasted like gummy bears,
Yeah.
but they were cranberries, and they just dry them out. And I was like, this is the cure. I don't have to have candy anymore. I'll just eat dried cranberries. And I did that, and I wasn't trying to lose weight, so I have no idea how much I weighed. But I found out, unfortunately, that dried fruit is basically like candy. There's a reason why it tasted so good. Um, so what I guess I'm wondering, and maybe you're just as frustrated as I am, but like why and how does the food industry get away with like McDonald's putting sugar in their french fries? Like why are they able to trick us and mislead us so much?
Yeah, I think that something's definitely off. That's where I'll leave it. And it's very frustrating. I think that we are working against a billion-dollar food industry who makes food pretty addictive. You don't know how many times somebody comes to me who wants to lose weight, who has been trying and trying and trying. And the diet that they'll report, like I said, I go into very detailed analysis of what they're eating, drinking, snacking on, how much, what time, everything. And what they're reporting, everybody would think that it's very healthy. They're talking about whole wheat this and a small Nature Valley bar and whole grain that and brown rice and this health smoothie and this energy bar and this protein shake, and they're gaining weight. So
Right.
it's my job to come in and tell them that everything you're doing is unfortunately not that great. Like it looks good and the label looks amazing, but you're being tricked. And I do that every week, many, many times a week. I'm working with patients explaining that to them. It's very unfortunate.
It's okay. So I know you're not a doctor, but you did go through all of that background. I know, like another frustrating thing that happens a lot is the information will change, like, oh, eggs are good versus eggs are bad. But I know that there's also a lot of lobbying being done on behalf of restaurants and food brands, and they actually get scientists, like when they used to say like 4 out of 5 doctors recommend Camel cigarettes. Like in the industry, how how do these people sleep at night? Basically, I'm trying to figure like what are your thoughts on these actual medical professionals who are saying, oh yeah, this is part of a balanced breakfast, or like what, like do you guys, as do your colleagues, look like talk about them behind their backs? Like how does that even happen?
We do. We're very frustrated and we're stunned. I mean, I've seen it ruin lives. I have two examples that actually come to mind right now. One of them is kids. So kids, right now, there's a major issue with kids. I see
Mm-hmm.
lots of pediatrics, and I'll go into a kid's room and they're having trouble with high triglycerides. That's fat in your blood, and they might even have show signs of prediabetes, and the kid might also be struggling with obesity. I'll be talking with the kid. This is what's happening. They're waking up. Kids are told to have a big breakfast, so they're given a cereal that they're told is healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cereal and juice at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They get to school at 8 a.m. The school gives them a free breakfast. The free breakfast is Pop Tarts and bagels and juice, right? At 10 a.m., they have lunch. And lunches, you know what school lunches are, pizzas and whatever else, fried
Yeah,
chicken
and
and
tater
sort of
tots,
thing.
yeah,
Tater tots and
and
chocolate milk,
chocolate milk, yeah,
strawberry
yeah,
milk, or juice again.
yeah.
This is what is happening, right? Like I'll explain this to the parents. The parents have no idea this is even happening. That it hurts me. It really does. I'm very passionate about trying to fix this. There's actually a great doctor, Dr. Robert Lustig, and I
Okay.
think he's a medical doctor who talks a lot about sugar and his frustrations. And I think he's going back. I don't know if it's him or some other doctor. He's going back to law school to actually get into change the laws about nutrition and childhood nutrition.
I'm gonna have to write that down. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's got
So,
some great lectures.
it's interesting. I joked on an earlier episode with a comedian friend of mine who lost over 100 pounds, and it's one of the funniest things. I remember. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
I'm 30.
Okay, we're about the same age. I'm 32. I remember all growing up, because there wasn't streaming services and there wasn't all that, so we'd watch actual TV with commercials. And I remember seeing like Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops commercials saying part of a balanced breakfast, and the other half of the breakfast was white bread toasted with butter and a glass of orange juice. And it's like that's just sugar on top of sugar with sugar and then some butter.
Yeah, I've literally seen it ruin a life. I was working with a patient who was drinking orange juice breakfast, lunch, and dinner because of the commercials. It was literally his answer. I said, "Did you know that orange juice is not actually good for you?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean? It's on all the commercials." And I
Right,
said, "No, I want you to cut it out." He cut out the orange juice, but he kept eating kind of, general, like he was eating hot dogs, hamburgers, ham and cheese sandwiches, like all day, every day.
right.
All he did was cut out the orange juice. He ended up losing like 30 pounds and started to reverse his diabetes.
Wow.
And this is a guy who only was drinking it not because he liked it. He didn't like the taste. He was drinking it because he thought it was healthy because of the commercials.
That I'm not a big regulation guy. I'm not very political, and I frankly lean towards to let me, if I'm not hurting anybody, let me do what I want. But I think there's a difference between overregulation and like just straight up lying to people.
Mhm.
And it's like that's why I tend to stay out of politics, because it's upsetting to me that like they're there to hopefully protect and to help us, and they spend so much time on like I remember a few years ago they had a whole big congressional thing when people were doing steroids in baseball, and they were and I'm like, like frankly, who cares? But when all these Congress people get out of Congress, they become lobbyists, make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and get donations. Like, and I don't know the full background of this, so I probably shouldn't even bring it up. But I just got back from Florida, and the rumor that I heard, and this could be completely wrong, so don't yell at me in the comments, is that the person who owns Publix, actually, I love that grocery store. It was awesome. Everyone was super nice and it was great. But they donated to the governor, and they got COVID vaccines before other people. Now everyone has it, and I know it just came out in 60 Minutes, and I know they were saying that was bad reporting. So I'm not entirely sure if that example is correct. But is there a movement in your field to get more like common sense rules on advertising or anything like that?
It's yeah, so it's happening. One of the things that happened, you can actually compare how the nutrition labels looked. I think maybe what was it, 10 years ago to the nutrition labels now. They're actually completely different. Now calories are actually huge in bold on products.
Oh,
You might
right.
notice the
Yeah, I have
difference.
noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's actually now they're in bold, and also I think sugar is a little bit more detailed. I think now they have to include, is there added sugar in this product, or is it true natural sugar? I think that's
Oh,
new as well, and that's as far as we got. But unfortunately, there's still too many loopholes. One of the most
right.
frustrating ones right now actually is the keto word is not what's the word? It's not regulated. The keto word. So we have a lot of products out there that have like 20 or 30 grams of sugar in them they say keto on it. And all like these popular brands are taking full advantage. I see granola bars saying it's keto, ice cream keto.
How do they justify it?
They don't have to. It's not regulated. They just put like energy bar keto and it's or protein shake keto, and on the back it's got like 10 grams of sugar. And I see it every day when I'm in the supermarket. And I'm like, all right, this is arts trading. There's nothing I can do about it. These companies are huge.
Right. And that's wild. And I think that is honestly something I didn't bring up yet. I forgot in the same vein is they all get away with having lower calories per serving by having an ungodly amount of servings in a package. Like I remember speaking of trail mix, it was something like over 20 servings in a very small package,
Yeah.
just so they could say it was 100 calories a serving.
I used to give a presentation to high schoolers about this, and I used to bring bags of cereal and show them like this granola cereal. It has this many calories, and here's a serving. And the serving was like a couple bites. It was like 3 bites. I put it in like a Ziploc bag for presentation. It was like this much cereal or something.
Right.
And like, who's eating that much cereal? That's
No
what you
one.
think that the serving is, and that's how they trick you, really.
And they're just tricking us. So, what I don't know if there's products or what are your recommendations for anyone trying to eat healthy, whether it's new or not. When you go to the store or a restaurant, what are you looking for?
Protein most of the time. I think there's this common strategy that I like to follow, which is actually varies person to person, but working on finding out what fills you up. And I've learned after working with so many patients that it's different person to person. When you find a food or a meal that fills you up, literally write it down. Make a Word document, write it in a journal, write it on your phone. If you find a meal that fills you up, you've just won the lottery. So we need to keep an eye on those things. And most of the time, it's going to be a protein combined with a fat and a fiber. So working towards those type of foods, the beef, chicken, fish, turkey, those type of things. I always push those.
Okay, and that's interesting that you said that because my go-to Monday night meal the night before my weigh-in is I have 2 cans of tuna with light mayo. I put salt, pepper, red pepper flakes in it, and I eat it with chips to save the bread calories. I like scoop it with chips, and I have a big salad, and I have my favorite go to dessert right now are the Outshine no sugar added popsicles because they're only 25 calories.
Nice.
Um, and it's usually at most like 1,100 calories.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who get mad at me and say I'm not eating enough, but to your point, I honestly I could have the bread and I could up the calories, but I know tuna and mayo is a lot of protein, and I honestly genuinely feel full. It's almost about 6 o'clock right now,
Yeah.
and I haven't eaten for almost 24 hours, and I'm getting hungry,
Yeah.
but I if I was hungry, I would have still ate. So like, am I hurting myself by not having a lot of calories? Or like, it's a lot of food, 2 cans of tuna, a big salad, some chips. Like I feel like I'm eating enough, but I'm not sure if I'm hurting myself.
It's a highly debated topic. Between, what my thinking is no, I don't think you are, and that goes because there's a lot of factors. It's not the same for everybody, but for you in your situation, I don't think you're harming yourself. Why is that? Because it's only happening maybe once a week or twice a week. Other days I saw some of your pictures. I thought they were great. Some days it might go up to 1600 or a little bit more. So
Right.
if you dip down to 11 one day, there's no harm. I mean, the body has a safety net, right? Your safety net is your fat that's on your body.
Right.
Like that is fat on the body is stored food.
I have a lot of safety net. I have a big
You've
safety
got
net.
yeah, you got some stored food, and your
Yeah.
body will use it, and that's so you have some safety at the end of the day. If it's when I actually have a story about the calorie thing and the not eating enough thing. You want me to tell it?
I would love to. Yeah.
So if somebody's not eating enough, okay, so actually let me go back a little bit. The hunger thing. When you told me that the meal fills you up, that's all I needed to hear. I got very happy when you said that. Being full, I think that's actually the number one most important thing for weight loss. Being full, being satisfied. If you're not, I don't think anything's going to work. You need to find foods you like. You need to find something enjoyable. Everything else falls short. The most important thing is addressing hunger. I met a patient once, and she had already been working on a diet plan on her own, and I was meeting her for the first time. And she told me she's already lost quite a lot of weight, 50, 60 pounds, and she's doing a very low calorie diet, and she's eating many times a day. She's eating like 6 to 8 times a day. And I was like, well, what's that look like? And she told me she's having like, an egg, this much egg white for breakfast. And then she's snacking on a couple of almonds. Then she's snacking on a couple of blueberries. And then she's having, a fourth of a sandwich. And I said, how are you feeling? She's like, I'm very hungry all day.
Yeah.
I said, that worries me. That doesn't sound good for the metabolism, right? The body's always demanding food. And she's like, yeah, but I lost 50 pounds, 60 pounds already. So it's working, right? The word working. She thinks it's working. And I said, I advise against this. I really want you to be full, even if we have to add some fat or some more protein or even reduce the amount of meals you're eating. She disagreed. I said, I'd love to follow you. I'd love to see you maybe once a month and just check in. I checked in with her every month, and she kept losing weight. And every time she told me, she said it's miserable. She hated it. She was hungry. And I said, let's stop this. I want you to eat protein. I want you to really hit the brakes on this. Let's add some avocado, add some more tuna, add some more eggs. And she didn't really want to. She didn't want to out the calories, maybe showing signs of a little bit of an eating disorder. But she was, I think, a starting point of maybe 350 pounds or something like that. So she was working her way down. I think over a year, she lasted this, and she ended up losing about 100 pounds.
Wow.
She got down to quite a lot of weight. And then life got in the way, and she had some stress factors happen. And now she's gaining weight rapidly, uncontrollably. And we're left with a person who is very hungry, all day, every day. And it can't be stopped. And, I was trying to do some research on why this occurred. And there's some research about leptin, which is your hunger hormone. And I think it really could have been damaged. And I'm still researching leptin resistance, but something is definitely off with the satisfaction hormone in the body, the hunger hormone in the body. Something's off because we cannot get her to be full. And now the weight it keeps on coming back.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is scary, and it's something that I've dealt with. I was never as restrictive as it sounds like she was, but the other diets that I've tried, and the reason why I'm enjoying this one now, like I lost 70 pounds once in 27 days doing a juice fast, but I gained like 5 pounds after my first meal.
Yeah.
And when it's not sustainable, whatever people are doing, at least for me, when it wasn't something that I could see myself doing forever, you get sick of it, whether it's a plateau that you hit or you just eventually get sick of blueberries and egg whites, and you go the opposite way, and it's very hard, at least it was for me, to, even though I could see myself gaining weight and I could see my clothes not fitting and I wasn't feeling as good, and I knew I didn't like the way I looked, and I knew that I was doing the wrong thing. Maybe I'd be good for a meal or two, but then 11:30 would hit, and it was like I had a magnet in my stomach, and McDonald's was the other side of the magnet. It was just, almost impossible for me to avoid. And it just, I feel bad because I understand where she's coming from to a
Mm-hmm.
point where she was very big and for whatever reason wanted to lose weight. And because it becomes so much of your identity when you're big that all you want to do is see that number go down.
Yep.
And I don't, I think you're right, and I would love to know your thoughts on how to avoid going from maybe an eating disorder of eating too much to you just go too far the other way and it turns into another kind of eating disorder. But I I hope people who are listening and watching this, and I need to also do it, is be able to take advice from someone who can see a little bit wider than you can and not be so focused on the actual number, even though the number is so much a part of your identity. And you're just like, if I could just get under 200 pounds, my life will be amazing. But if I was just imagining like a rubber band, and if it snaps and it breaks, and then you lose all the momentum that you had, it doesn't matter if you lost 100 pounds in 4 months if you gain it all back plus 20 pounds. It's like
Yeah.
it's a terrible thing that happened. So how often do you see that? How often do you see people going and sort of creating an eating disorder in some ways when they start dieting and losing weight?
Yeah, so I must have seen maybe over 1,000 or more patients by now, and
Wow.
I've probably only seen it twice because most people take my advice, and I really go deep. I've got an hour, so I really explain the science of what this can get ugly. This I've seen this fail before. I don't want you hungry. I don't want you starving yourself. I want you eating satisfying meals. I want you eating food that you love. And most people listen. Only 2 times I've seen it not work. At one time, unfortunately, it was a doctor actually going against me. The doctor put a patient on a 1,200 calorie diet,
Wow.
and she's like, "No, I'm taking the doctor's orders. So can you help me with this?" And I'm like, "Sure," but I'm usually not a fan of like strict calorie diets that you're miserable on. And she's like, "No, I'm just going to do it until I lose 30 pounds." And I'm like, "I don't think it's going to end well." And then I remember 1 month seeing her, and she's like, "I gained 20 pounds this month. It's been fast food every day." And I'm like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I've been asking you to listen to me for quite a while here, but again, I'm still working with her, and now she understands, and we're resolving things.
Oh, good. And so it was interesting to me. I was surprised to hear that number because I just know from my own experience that I've tried and failed so many times on diets. Is it obviously I think you're very good at what you do, but
Thanks.
are people who are coming to you sort of at like rock bottom, or like how are you able to reach people and convince them to, because I had a lot of people train me for free or try to help me, and I would leave the gym and go and get fast food after. So
Yeah,
like you're not at home with these people, you're not cooking their meals.
no,
How are you able to get them to follow your plan?
that's a great question, and I was not prepared to answer it. I wish I knew. I'm doing something right.
Right.
Um, I think that in my assessments, I give a lot of credibility. I talk about my success stories. I've helped people lose 150 pounds. I've helped people
Wow.
reverse their diabetes. I've helped people get off all their medications. I've made sure people have kept off the weight for 4 years. I've seen it all happen. I've seen people lose 20 pounds a month, month after month, on fasting strategies. I've seen a lot of things. So when people hear that, I think they listen, they start to, their eyes light up a little bit. And I
That's
think when we make
wonderful.
the goals, and the goals are not horrible, right? I'm not asking these people to write down, everything they eat all day, every day. I'm not asking them to measure food or weigh food. I'm not asking them to count their calories. I actually never do that with people. I let them know that you can't fail with me. This isn't some strict program. If it's a rough month, that's fine. Let's talk about it. What was rough, right? Why didn't it work? What got in the way? And I'm going to help you, right? You can't fail with me. And it's very commonly the conversation. It's people like, it was a very stressful month. This happened, and I'm like, well, let's go forward. I'm here for you. And unfortunately, that's not the case with most people. Most people, they feel like a failure. I think the diet world they feel kicked out. I don't know exactly how many diets work, but yeah, the rock bottom question was a good one. A lot of people come to me and they tell me they've done the juice fast, they've done the Nutrisystem, they've done the Weight Watchers, they've done it all. And they're like, okay, you need to help me now. It's like, it's a huge challenge, right? That's a lot of weight. Like you've
Yeah.
done it all. Like you have been trying to diet for 40 years and you've lost this much weight and gained it all back 20 times. And now you're putting the pressure on me.
Right. Yeah.
Challenge accepted. I better know my stuff.
Oh yeah, and it seems like you do, and it's my mom especially, but both of my parents were very supportive and helpful, and I went to the doctor, but something that I never did was go see a dietitian, and I think it would have been helpful, and maybe I should, because I know as a big person, the doctor's office, I was just talking about this on the episode that got released today with Shane, is as a big person, you tend to avoid the doctor almost because even if they say it nicely, like you feel like you're going to like the principal's office at school, like it's going to be an issue, and they just say, well, like this is bad, and you should really lose weight, but that's really the end of it. So I think I'm understanding, like, is that the real, like, obviously you want people to come see you, but is that really what dietitians offer?
Um,
Like the more of a concrete plan, and
oh
and and
yeah.
the and like the and I'm sure there could be some dietitians who aren't as nice or understanding as you are, but it seems like at least in your scenario, you're not like chastising them if they gain weight 1 month or
Exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, and it's a two-part answer. The doctor, it kind of falls on their job, right? The doctor's job is to be the tough person. The doctor is going to say, "Hey, you fall into the obesity category, right? Like you have some weight to lose." And oftentimes, I get patients, especially pediatrics, and the mom and the kid will come in and say, "The doctor's so mean. The doctor told like my kid that he's overweight." And I was like, well, the doctor's just being a doctor. That's what doctors do. But, you're working with me now, so we won't use words like that. Well, we won't talk about weight or numbers. We'll talk about healthy eating. So, we have it like a good cop, bad cop kind of thing going.
Right, right. Well, yeah, it's. I guess you bring up a good point that it is their job to tell us.
It
Like
really
that,
is. Yeah.
it wouldn't be nice if I went in 100+ pounds overweight and they're like, "You're doing great." So I can see your point. So the last thing I want to talk with you about is pretty much the reason why I'm losing weight is I am terrified of diabetes.
Yeah.
I'm not good with needles. Um, and I basically I would like to know very not quickly, but like I would like to know like a very dumb person's, for me, uh definition of what diabetes is.
Sure. Yeah. So 90% of what I do is help people with weight loss and diabetes, and I teach diabetes classes as well. The way I like to explain diabetes, I'm sure it's not perfect and people are going to have their critiques, but the way I like to explain it is there's basically a problem with your insulin,
Okay.
right? And that's if you have diabetes. So the way I explain it in the group classes, and these are people who don't, right, they know nothing about diabetes. They don't know anything about how it works. They don't know what a carb is. So, we're starting from basic level. So I think that's a good way to explain it. The way I like to explain it is when we have a carb or we have some sugar, our blood sugar in our body goes up, right? And that's a normal process. Everybody's does. Let's say I had a soda. I don't have diabetes. If I drink a soda, my sugar will go up. What will happen after is my body will release insulin, and the insulin will help process the blood sugar to bring it back to baseline.
Okay.
That is the normal process. That's what you want to have happen. Now, what's happening with diabetes, and the diabetes scale is pretty large. Let's say somebody has very bad diabetes. They'll drink a soda, their sugar's already high, right? They'll drink a soda, the sugar will go sky high. Their body will release insulin and nothing happens. The sugar stays high.
Oh God.
So the
Okay.
body, the insulin, how I like to describe it is insulin's kind of like workers that aren't getting the job done. It's actually called insulin resistance. So the insulin is not doing its job. It's a bunch of lazy workers.
Right.
So the body actually releases more workers to get the job done. And the sugar's still not going down. So this is where doctors would need to prescribe maybe insulin, right? And then the sugar's coming down.
So
That So it's making the insulin work better
Right.
at the end of the day.
So why is high blood sugar bad?
So high blood sugar can just lead to so many complications. I mean, it can mess with your nerve endings, specifically in the feet and the fingers. It can mess with your kidneys. It can mess with your vision, your sex drive. Everything. It can ruin. I mean, it can ruin it with your weight. It's not so much blood sugar is the issue, but it's also the insulin's the issue. Insulin is a hormone that actually controls weight. That's why so many people who have diabetes are also overweight, because insulin is the key role player in whether you burn fat or not. So if insulin's not working properly, then fat loss isn't occurring properly.
Got it. And I know there are two types of diabetes. One that you're born with, and one that you can it happens over time. But is the second kind, the kind that I'm at risk for, is that genetic, or is that all based off of what I eat?
I think it's both. So type 2 is probably the most common. That's everything I'm talking about here. Type 1 is like its own anomaly. Type 1 is totally different than anything we're talking about here. Type 2, I would say there is a genetic component. You're put more at risk. That's for sure. It could be passed down by family members, but it can be definitely brought on by poor diet, lack of exercise, those sort of things. And unfortunately, it's very, very common. I think they say 1 in every 3 adults has prediabetes now.
Oof. And that's what I would like to. You brought that up. I don't think I have. I mean, I also haven't been to the doctor in probably a little over a year. I'm about to go again. My birthday's in July. But I don't think I was pre-diabetic, but I was like pre-diabetic. I think it was like a little high sugar, but I wasn't on any medicine or anything. What is pre-diabetic?
Yeah, great question. So there's a scale of diabetes, and I have this great thermometer picture. Maybe I'll share it to you so you can post it on the podcast. But
Yeah, yes, please.
so what this thermometer shows is this level. It's kind of like your report card. It's your average blood sugar for 3 months. So it goes from about a 4 up to a 12, right? So 4 is basically like very low blood sugar. 4 and 5, 5.5. This is where most people fall. That's like a non-diabetic level. And the A1C relates to how high your blood sugar is. So once you start creeping above, 5.6, you get to 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. This is prediabetes right there in that like kind of green zone. It's like, hey, your blood sugar is slightly high. That's not good. We got to get you back down here. Once it goes above 6.4, this is a diagnosis of diabetes. And the scale goes on, right? The
To
scale
what?
goes to 12. I've
Okay.
seen 13, 14, 15. And this is off the charts. That's deadly when it's like 14, 15. Like you need most likely hospitalization. But that's like the red zone. So every category actually has its own meaning. So if you're in the fives, you're basically good. If you're in the sixes, you probably have prediabetes. If you're entering the sevens, doctors might want to introduce some medication. Above 9 is a very important one. Above 9 is what most people in the medical field they consider that like uncontrolled diabetes, where we really have to take extra efforts. Maybe they'll put you on 2 or 3 medications. A lot of the goal is to get you below 9. Above 9 is when many of those issues that I mentioned occur. And above 10, unfortunately, that's when they might introduce the insulin.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that I had a friend who recently got diagnosed with diabetes. I'm just so everyone watching, I'm not that friend. Um, but they said they didn't get the shot, but they got a pill version of insulin. What is the?
interesting.
Or it might. It was definitely a pill. It might not have been insulin, but they got a pill. Is there a difference, or are you aware of why that might be?
Yeah, I teach about them in my diabetes class. There's dozens of medications. One of the most common ones is called metformin, and that's usually prescribed when there's any sign of prediabetes or diabetes, actually. It's one of the entry level medications to help start reversing things and actually helps people lose weight too. What metformin does is exactly what we want to do. Metformin makes your insulin work better. So sugar goes up, your insulin gets released, your workers are working better. That's what metformin does. The medications do wild things. I mean, they got really creative with medications. Some of the medications make you pee the sugar out. That's an interesting one. Some of them make your body produce more insulin on its own. They do a lot of different interesting things, but I would assume that he's on a metformin that's very commonly prescribed if he's at an early stage.
Okay, and Um, I know, and you just mentioned it, that type 2 diabetes is actually luckily something that you can get rid of. Or
Very, very debatable, I think.
okay, well, I would love to have you expand on that.
Yeah, so I think is a lot of gray areas there. I would say that it's, I'll get backlash for this, but I think it's reversible. And I basically say that because I might take somebody who comes to me with an A1C of 10, right? This is the red zone, uncontrolled diabetes. They're taking three different diabetes medications. I'll work with them for a year. I'll get them to start walking. I'll get them to start moving more. I'll get them on maybe an intermittent fasting plan. I'll get them eating more real food, eggs, chicken, tuna, vegetables, good food, good diet. They'll lose weight. Their A1C will come down to a 5.2. They'll be taken off all their medications and they'll continue their life like that for another year. Is their diabetes gone? Right? Their insulin is working well again. Their blood sugar is in normal levels. They don't need medication. The question is their diabetes gone? That's the gray area, right? That's where this gets tricky, is because people say no, it will come back if they start to abuse their diet again. They still have diabetes, it's just in remission. It's a good debate. I don't have an answer. I think that they should live the rest of their lives like that. They should keep exercising. They should try to stay off the medication. They should do all those things and keep their blood sugar normal. And can they do that the rest of their lives? Yeah, they can.
Okay. And so the person, my friend, he used to have a lot of sweets, and now he might have like a little bit of a dessert, but not much. But like, I was looking at it like, for me, I have a little bit of a dessert sometimes, but nothing, not no ice cream and not a lot of actually no candy. Um, but for someone with diabetes, are they allowed to have any sugar, or should they have? I mean, I guess you should. No one should have sugar, but like, is it like a death sentence for them to have sweets every once in a while?
No, not at all. I mean, will it interfere? Will they be less successful? Yeah, most likely.
Okay,
It'll cause a bump in the road. But again, sometimes it's a nice little test, right? Like I said, if somebody has a very bad diabetes, their insulin is not working at all. Like their insulin is not processing blood sugar when we first meet. They drink a sugar, the sugar shoots up to 500, something wild. And if we work for 2 years together and they have a soda then, and their sugar, shoots up to 200, and then the body processes it pretty quickly, there's a big difference, right? The
right.
physiology of the body, something is different. So, right. So I do keep around things like that for people. It depends on the person. A lot of people are like, I still want one sweet a day. Like I have one guy who's very successful. He had a little dessert every night with dinner. Like he wanted like a Rice Krispie or a chocolate, and he's lost like 100 pounds every day. He
Oh,
had like a little dessert with dinner.
yeah. Okay, that makes me feel better. Um, so if anyone out there is either pre-diabetic or diabetic, or has someone like me in their life who has it, is there like, and I know this is very broad, but is there a tip or a suggestion to help deal with their diabetes or their pre-diabetes?
Yeah, so I would definitely suggest the obvious, you know, promoting myself, my own career, right? See a dietitian, let them analyze everything, be the detective and help you. But if there's any tips generally, I'd say the sugary drinks are definitely the main killer, really. They're a top concern. Sugary drinks, if you're drinking something and it's sweet, be very careful. That should probably go. A lot of people putting sugar in their coffee, they're putting sweet cream in their coffee, and they don't think twice about it. And that's actually, I mean, 80% of one of the issue. And I'd also introduce a light form of an intermittent fast. If you're finding yourself doing a big breakfast, a big lunch, and a big dinner, I highly recommend people try a brunch dinner strategy, right? And make sure the meals are filling, switching to 2 meals instead of three big meals.
Right.
That's actually pretty good. And you can keep snacks around if you try to implement that. That's two tips that I would get started with. And also walking. I've learned over the years that walking is way more powerful than I thought when I first became a dietitian.
Right.
The most successful patients I have are walking. I'm not doing CrossFit, not going to classes, not doing kickboxing. They're walking.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned it earlier, but you do have an online consulting business or practice. I don't know, maybe business sounds bad. You do help people online. So
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. How do people find you and contact you online?
Sure. So my website is effectiverd.com.
And what does RD stand for?
Registered
Registered Dietitian.
Dietitian.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's
As soon as I asked, I was like, maybe. Okay. All right. So effectiverd.com. Are you on social media as well? Or
yeah,
just,
that's a my Instagram is also effectiverd, and that's really all the social media I use.
okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hill. I'll call you. You're just so smart. I'm going to call you Mr. Hildebrand. But thank you very much for reaching out and um, coming on today. It was great to talk to you.
I think you're going to continue to be successful. Really, I'm very impressed with what you're doing, and
Well, thank
thanks so
you.
much for having me. Really,
Of
this has
course.
been it means a lot to me.
Thank you so much to Rob for coming on the podcast. It was great to talk to him. Again, if you want to hit him up and just check out his Instagram or go to his website, you can find him at effectiverd.com, and he's on Instagram as effectiverd, and he's the best. Honestly, it was great to talk to him, and I genuinely did feel like he cared, and I wish that I had met him sooner. That's just the plain and simple truth of it. I wish I'd met him sooner, and I know that he cares and is a good person. So thank you very much, Rob, for coming on. Thank you for listening. I mentioned already that I think I passed that 70-pound weight loss, or I think I did. To be honest with you guys, I'm just going to be straight up. Sometimes I mess up the intros and I have to start over again. I think that I mentioned in the intro that I passed 70 pounds. If I didn't, I did. I'm almost positive. I told you. I know I told you. But I will update you on Instagram or next week where I am exactly in the weight loss spectrum. I will be over the 70-pound mark when we talk next week. I'm hoping maybe close to 73, 74 pounds. Probably 72 to 73. But it's a start. I have a long way to go, but thank you for being on this journey with me. Tell a friend, tell a buddy, tell a family member. Thank you so much for listening to the Waistline Podcast, and we'll be back next week, next Tuesday, with a brand new episode. Bye, guys.